Alright, hello everyone, my name is Joanna with the Prince Albert Historical Society, and today we will be baking Christmas cookies from this cookbook here, the Cookie Book from 1942. Today I'll be showing you how to make old-fashioned sugar cookies, and we'll be sharing the recipe below. Alright, so the first step in this recipe is we're going to cream together our sugar and our shortening. Now one thing that's really interesting about this recipe is it uses shortening as opposed to butter. So you have your choice, you could use a vegetable shortening or an animal-based shortening. So today we're going to be using Crisco, we're going to be using the vegetable-based shortening. So they didn't have our nice modern-day hand mixers back in the 1940s, so if you want, you could try and cream it by hand, but for us today we're going to be using our hand mixer. So you can see we've creamed our shortening and sugar mixture, so it's quite fluffy. Once we're done with this, we'll mix together our wet and our dry ingredients. So I've pre-mixed these today. So we have our dry ingredients here. So this is a mixture of flour, baking powder, baking soda, and a little bit of salt. And then our wet ingredients, which is eggs, sour cream, and vanilla. And I don't know about you, but I've never baked a sugar cookie with sour cream before, so we're excited to see how this turns out. So grabbing your sugar and shortening mix, you're going to add your dry and your wet ingredients in alternating steps. I'll add a little bit of this guy. I've just got a spatula here to mix this up. So we're just going to continue alternating our wet and our dry mixture into the sugar and the shortening mix. So your dough will come together, it'll be kind of a crumbly looking mixture, but that's okay because we're going to wrap it in saran wrap, make a little ball, and chill it in our fridge before we roll it and cut it out. Alright, so we're back and we've let our dough chill. The recipe calls for the dough to chill, but it doesn't specify for how long. We decided we would let it chill for at least 2 hours. It ended up being closer to 4 hours with all the excitement we have going on at the museum. Now, the dough is recommended, they say to lay it out and roll it out on a cloth-covered board or a cloth on your countertop. We think this may have been to preserve flour, so you're not wasting flour sprinkling it out to keep your dough from sticking. So you want to roll it out to around 1/4 of an inch thick using your rolling pin or whatever else you may have around. If you don't have a rolling pin like us, you can use a jar or a bottle. Make sure to give it a good wash, or you can see we've covered ours in plastic wrap just to make sure it's nice and clean. And this recipe does make quite a lot of dough. We actually are just making a half recipe here today, but it's still quite a bit of dough. So now that your dough is rolled out to around 1/4 of an inch thickness, you want to sprinkle it with a bit of sugar on top. I think that should be enough. The recipe doesn't specify, so we're just, just trust your gut here. And use your rolling pin to press that sugar into the dough. Alright, so now you've got your sugar. Spread it out a little bit more. You can use a cookie cutter to cut out shapes for your cookies. Or if you don't have a cookie cutter or just want even round ones, I find using a small glass does the job perfectly. Alright, so now we've got our cookies all rolled out. They're looking pretty good. We are going to bake them. And the interesting thing about this cookbook is it came from a time where not everyone would have had an electric stove. So it comes with both the temperature guidelines for an electric stove, as well as if you're using an old wood stove. So these cookies call for a moderately hot oven, or 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And because they're quite thin, we don't think they'll need to bake for too long. There's no time specified in the recipe, but when we share the recipe with you, we will update it with our timing recommendations to see what works here in our historical museum oven. All right, so we've just got our first batch of 4 cookies in the oven. We're gonna give these a test and see how long they take to cook. All right, so these were in the oven for around 7 minutes. I decided to go with 7 minutes because I like my cookies a little bit crunchier. If you like them a bit softer, I would recommend maybe 6 minutes, but just, you know, keep an eye on them, test them out, and see. So I'm gonna let these cool off a little bit and then give them a taste test. All right, so our cookies are out of the oven and cool enough to eat. You can see the bottom has got a nice little golden brown, so I'm gonna give it a taste and see how she is. All right, so our cookies are done. It's pretty tasty. You know, the sugar on top adds a nice sweetness. It's a little bit dry and flaky, crumbly on the inside, but overall, not a bad cookie recipe. So if you try it, please let us know how it goes. Share your pictures, and send us an email comment on our Facebook. Let us know, you know, did this recipe work for you? Are you adding it to your Christmas holiday baking traditions? Happy holidays and happy baking, everyone.